Listen, can you hear it? The sound of a world breaking. Not with a slow crack, but with a single, catastrophic crash. It happened on a Monday, April 12th, 1204. And the epicenter was the greatest city on earth, Constantinople. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Empire Builders, the rise and fall of civilizations. For 800 years, the walls of Constantinople had held. They'd turned back Persians, Avars, Arabs, and Bulgars. They were the ultimate symbol of the Roman Empire's endurance, a thousand-year thread back to Augustus. The city itself was a living museum, a treasure house of antiquity. Its libraries held the lost wisdom of the Greeks. Its churches, like the monumental Hagia Sophia, held relics that defined Christendom. It was New Rome. It was the center of the world. And then came the Knights of the Fourth Crusade. This is the story of how an army, sworn to liberate Jerusalem from Muslim rule, instead turned its swords on the largest Christian city on the planet. The crusade had gone off the rails almost from the start. Bankrupt, indebted to the shrewd merchants of Venice, the Crusader army was diverted to do Venice's bidding, attacking a Christian rival port, then intervening in a Byzantine dynastic dispute. They placed a young prince on the imperial throne, but when he couldn't pay them the colossal sum he'd promised, the deal soured. The prince was overthrown and killed. The Crusaders, camped outside the city walls, were stranded. They saw a usurper on the throne. They saw their promised payment vanished. And they saw opportunity. A Venetian Doge and a handful of Frankish barons made a cold, calculated decision. If they couldn't have the wealth they were promised, they would simply take it. All of it. On that April morning, after a short, fierce assault, the impossible happened. The walls were breached. The Knights of the Cross poured into the city of Constantine. What followed was not a conquest. It was a catastrophe. For 3 days, the Crusaders sacked Constantinople. They did not behave as liberators, or even as soldiers. They behaved as looters in a divine candy store. They smashed the high altar of the Hagia Sophia, the very heart of Eastern Christianity, and divided its ornaments. Horses and mules were led into the sanctuary to carry away silver and gold. A prostitute was set on the patriarch's throne to sing bawdy songs. Ancient bronze statues were melted down for coin. Libraries were burned. Nuns were assaulted. The Venetians, at least, had an eye for art. They took the 4 great bronze horses that still adorn St. Mark's Basilica. The Frankish knights, often, just wanted the precious metals. Priceless icons were stripped of their gold frames and tossed aside. The accumulated glory of a millennium was liquidated in a weekend. The economic and cultural loss is almost incomprehensible. But the political and spiritual fracture was permanent. The Byzantine Empire was, in that moment, shattered. Though a remnant would recover the city decades later, it was a ghost of its former self, forever crippled. The great schism between the Catholic West and the Orthodox East was now a chasm filled with blood and betrayal. The trust was gone, replaced by a hatred that lasts to this day. And here's the terrible irony. The Crusades were never the same. The Fourth Crusade revealed the entire enterprise's hollow core. It wasn't about faith, it was about fortune. It broke the illusion. How could anyone preach a holy war to reclaim Jerusalem when the soldiers of Christ had ravaged the greatest Christian city for a quick profit? The moral authority of the papacy was gutted. The dream of a unified Christendom was dead. Sometimes, an empire falls not to a rival, but to a parasite. Constantinople didn't fall to its ancient enemies. It was consumed from within by a force it thought was an ally. The sack of 1204 wasn't just a battle. It was a betrayal that rerouted history. It broke the Byzantine world, discredited the West, and left a vacuum in the East that would, 2.5 centuries later, allow a new power to finally walk through those famous walls, the Ottomans. All because an army got lost, got greedy, and decided to pay its bills with the inheritance of Rome. It makes you think about the alliances we take for granted, and how quickly they can turn when desperation meets opportunity. The most durable walls, it turns out, can't defend against a poison already inside the gate. For Empire Builders, I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. This is a Light Knot Studios production. Find more of our stories at https://www.lightknotstudios.com.